I had been working as a driver for this rich boy called Brian, and one day, while I was sitting at the side of the pool outside their mansion, he and his friends jumped in, splashing water all over me. At first, I was mad. But then, more people joined the pool party, and among them was the Juliet to my Romeo. Her name was Victoria, and she was just so perfect. She turned to me and smiled before jumping into the pool, and I swear I felt my heart jump out of my chest. Suddenly, she screamed in pain, and the water around her started turning red. Hi, my name is Caleb. Before I continue with the story, please like and subscribe. If you don't, your crush will ignore you forever. So, back to the story. Victoria was screaming as everyone else around her laughed. Those jerks. I immediately dove into the pool. While I checked for injuries, I asked if she was okay, but Brian and the others were still laughing. Brian said, "It was just a prank for her TikTok, loser. Relax." I turned to Victoria and saw she was smiling with one eyebrow raised. She said, "That was attractive, but stay away from me, idiot." Feeling embarrassed, I walked away. Brian wanted to drive Victoria home, and during the ride, I stole a glance at her through the rearview mirror, only to see that she was also looking right at me and smiling. Suddenly, Brian moved closer and whispered, "Wake up, dummy. If I see you looking at her like that again, I swear." I tried to concentrate on the road instead. That night when I got home, I was shocked to see my little sister Candace sleeping on the top of the fridge. My mom told me she won't come down unless I give her ice cream, but we don't have the money for any. My heart broke. I checked my wallet and realized that I only had a few dollars left. I decided I'd find an evening job soon. Mom couldn't work after her accident, so it was all up to me now, and it drove me to work harder. One night, I drove Brian and Victoria to a party, and Brian told me to wait in the car. An hour had passed when I saw her coming out of the door with a guy, and I noticed she looked uncomfortable. Suddenly, the jerk started pulling her hand and trying to kiss her. I got out of the car and ran towards them. I pulled Victoria away and shouted, "Get off her, man!" The guy yelled back, "Who the hell do you think you are?" Victoria tried to calm me down. "Caleb, don't!" But I was furious. The dimwit then shoved me to the ground, making me scrape my elbow. I got up and was about to punch him, but Rachel and the others came out and stopped me. I stormed off and got back into the car. Victoria joined me a little later and started helping me with my small scratch on my elbow. She said, "You didn't have to do that, Caleb," but I wasn't listening to her. All I could hear was the loud beating of my heart as I stared at her beautiful face up close. I looked away when our eyes met. I had to stop this dream before it was too late. For the next several months, I ignored Victoria whenever she hung out with Brian. One day, I went home to our landlord screaming at my mom. He was throwing her things outside. My mom begged him, "Please, give us 2 more weeks." He replied, "I already gave you a month." I ran to hug my mom and desperately asked for another extension. When he finally agreed, I was forced to get another job as a part-time janitor at McDonald's. One afternoon, while I was mopping the floor, Brian, Victoria, and their other friends came in. After ordering, Rachel, Victoria's best friend, asked, "Hey Brian, we didn't know that your driver was a janitor too." I waited for Victoria to say something, but she avoided eye contact with me. Brian then called me over. "Hey loser, clean this up!" He started pouring all of their drinks on the floor. They were all laughing at me as I mopped the floor, except for Victoria, who kept herself busy on her phone. I felt like I'd been stabbed in the chest. She was so cold. Everyone suddenly fell silent as someone approached their table. It was my boss, Brian's dad, and he looked mad. He told them, "I don't think that's how we treat people." Brian bowed his head in shame, while the others looked guilty. He then apologized to me privately and promised to arrange a scholarship program for me at Brian's school, which he actually owned. I immediately told Mom the good news. I was finally going back to school to finish my final year. Brian and Victoria were shocked a month later when I was introduced as a new student to their class. While walking to my locker, I heard some students talking. What is he doing here? He was Brian's driver, right? I wanted to tell them that I wasn't Brian's driver anymore. Jeez, I had a name. I suddenly bumped into Victoria, and before I could react, she shoved me into a janitor's closet and joined me in there. I asked, What are you doing?" She ignored my question and instead said, "And now we're even closer, and you can't ignore me anymore." I had never been so confused in my whole life. I asked, "What do you mean?" She gave me a half smile, and before leaving the closet, she kissed me on the cheek. I couldn't get that kiss out of my mind for the next 3 days. It made me so nervous that I had to avoid her because these feelings were scaring me. One day, our science teacher paired me up with Victoria for a project. But to my surprise, Victoria requested a different partner. I was disappointed and relieved at the same time. As I was about to leave the room, she walked up to me and said, "I hate you." What did I do? My heart then skipped a beat when she suddenly leaned in and kissed me on the lips. I was going to kiss her back, but then our teacher saw us and kicked us out. It was so embarrassing. Victoria then held my hand and giggled as we ran out of school. A black limo stopped in front of us, and I gasped when she shoved me inside. I asked, "Am I being kidnapped?" She chuckled, "You're really cute. Now, take me somewhere else." Suddenly, feeling brave, I told her driver to take us to my secret hideout. When we got there, we sat next to each other silently for a while, admiring the view. I said, "You know, Vic, I've always been crazy about you." I finally decided to give in to my heart's desire and kissed her. But then she said she wanted our relationship to be a secret. She promised me that she'd tell everyone soon. Her parents would hate her if they found out, and she wasn't ready for the backlash in school yet. I tried my best to make her happy, but whenever she was around her squad, especially with Brian, she treated me like I didn't exist. One time, she got angry with me because I wasn't answering her calls. I told her my phone was broken. She turned up with the latest iPhone, which came with a bonus, a key to a Porsche. She said, "Tell everyone that it's yours. You also need brand clothes, bags, watches. We have to go shopping later." I told her that I didn't want all that stuff, but she insisted and said, "Do it for me." We headed to this high-end shopping mall after class, and on the way, she let go of my hand when we saw Rachel and her other friends. Rachel asked, "Hey girl, what are you doing here with Brian's driver?" Victoria then whispered something to her, which I heard. "I don't know, he kept following me and begging me to buy him clothes." Rachel whispered back, "Aw, he's a hopeless case, girl." She gave me a disgusted look, and they all walked away, taking Victoria with them. I was furious, but that instantly changed when she sent me a message saying, "Just stay right there. I'm going to the police to report you for stealing my heart." A few months later, I left McDonald's and got a new job as a waiter in a 5-star restaurant. During an afternoon shift, I was shocked to see who had just come in. It was Victoria and her parents. It was my first time seeing them, and they looked so sophisticated and intimidating. Suddenly, I felt insecure again. How the hell would they accept a guy like me for their princess? I took their order with shaking hands, and while serving them, I accidentally spilled a drink on her dad's shirt. "Oh, damn!" he shouted at me. "Look what you've done. Where's your manager?" Victoria defended me. "Dad, calm down. He's Caleb, and he's my friend." I was shocked at her dad's response. "Stick to friends from your circle, young lady." Victoria started to cry, while my face looked like someone had punched me in the stomach. The next day, when I woke up, I noticed that my mom was talking to someone. It was the most unexpected person, Victoria's mom. I listened to their conversation from the stairs, and my heart broke when I heard her final words. "This is a warning. Keep your son away from my daughter, or else." Mom tried to talk to me that night, but I just wanted to be alone. I didn't go to school for a few days and ignored Victoria's calls. She showed up to our house and forced me to come with her to her secret place, a hidden hot spring. She apologized about her dad. I was about to tell her what her mom did, but suddenly, someone appeared from the tall grass. "Victoria? Are you there?" It was Brian. I immediately lowered my head into the water. I came up for breath after a while and was shocked. Brian was trying to kiss my girlfriend. How dare he? Victoria pushed him and said, "Stop it, Brian. How did you even know I was here?" He answered, "I've been tracking your phone." What? Instead of being mad, Victoria just said, "I'm tired. I want to go home now." She left me a text saying that she still needed to prepare for a girl's party tonight. The phone pinged again. It was another message that said, "Get home safe." Later that night, I took my phone out and checked Instagram. I saw Rachel's stories. I thought it was a girl's party, but why were Brian and the other boys there? And then there were other stories that showed Victoria getting chummy with Brian. I felt so betrayed. I looked at my gift that I bought for her birthday next week. I saved up for months just to buy her it. We had a huge fight the next day because of Brian, and I told her I would not be attending her birthday. It was all a lie though. I wanted to surprise her by turning up at her birthday and telling her parents how serious I was about her. But little did I know that things were about to become a total mess. It was an exclusive, formal party in their mansion. I rented a suit, and bought an expensive bouquet of roses for her. My heart was beating out of my chest as I entered their mansion. Everyone looked so sophisticated, which made me feel totally out of place. I felt breathlessness when I finally saw Victoria. She looked so drop-dead gorgeous in her beautiful red dress. I waited in one corner when I noticed she was still busy talking to Brian and her parents' visitors. I met her mom's eyes across the room. She glared at me. She then whispered something to Victoria's dad, and moments later, her father walked up to the front. He got everyone's attention, only to announce something that made my world come crashing down. Brian and Victoria were getting engaged. What? I waited for Victoria to say something, but she just stood there with tears in her eyes while looking at Brian. Heck, she didn't even know I was there. I silently left with a broken heart. The next day, everyone was talking about the newly engaged couple. I went to the library to calm myself by reading a book. Suddenly, Victoria appeared and dragged me to the back of the bookshelf and said that she missed me. She tried to kiss me, but I pulled away. She asked, "What's the matter? You're going to prom with me, right?" I smiled bitterly. "Why don't you ask Brian instead?" Looking guilty, she answered, "Babe, don't believe the rumors. It's not true." The blood drained from her face when I told her that I had actually been there at her birthday party last night. She suddenly stepped away from me when some other students appeared. How could I love a person who was ashamed of me? It felt like there was a stone in my chest. I walked away and ran out of the building. I just wanted to be away from her. She called after me and asked me to stop. I said, "I can't do this anymore, Victoria. I'm sorry." She looked shocked. "What do you mean?" I answered with a cracked voice, "You deserve someone better. Someone who can give you the whole world. I can't do that. Brian can, and your parents know that." She said, "I don't care about all that. I love you, Caleb. I just need you to trust me and give me more time." It hurt to hear her cry as I walked away. I really believed that I had done the right thing, but after graduation, I was utterly miserable. Victoria and I hadn't seen each other since that day. I got another job as a bartender downtown, and one night, when we were about to close, I noticed a familiar guy slouching at the bar counter. I asked him for his order, but I was shocked when he lifted his face. It was Brian. He told me that he'd come because he wanted to talk to me. He revealed, "I love her so much, bro," and I thought she felt the same way. And now, it doesn't feel right, because I think she loves someone else. I froze. He added, "It really hurts a lot, but I'm finally letting her go." He patted me on the back and said, "Take care of her for me, please." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Brian had told me. It was already 4 in the morning when I finally decided to pick up my phone and dialed a number. The soft voice answered, "Hello?" With closed eyes, I breathed in and said, "Hello, Victoria."